Hi, I'm Jeff Moore, Chief Information Officer for the Valmark Financial Group, and with me today is Austin Fulco. He is a intern software developer, and we're going to be talking about a day in the life of a software developer intern at Valmark. So, Austin, welcome. What is your major, and what are you currently studying?
So as of now, I'm a senior at Cleveland State University, and I'm majoring in computer science.
Awesome. And before you came to Valmark, what kind of internships or jobs did you have?
So Valmark is actually my first internship experience. Prior to this, I just had some mishmash jobs in the fast food industry and a warehousing job my first semester at Cleveland State.
Okay, so non-technical,
Nothing.
first IT job. So what kind of programming experience did you have, either kind of personally or through school?
So I've been programming since my freshman year in high school. I started off with some basic web design stuff, so HTML, CSS, a little bit of JavaScript. Then I moved into some more object-oriented languages, Java, C++, C. I had some experience in SQL, Python, a little bit in XML, but very baseline.
Okay, so you kind of had like a smattering of a bunch
little
of
bit of
different,
everything.
little bit of everything. And so before you started your internship here, like what was your hope, or what did you think you would get out of this experience?
So my main goal is I wanted to see what a real world, like professional environment for software development was, because in the classroom you only hear bits and pieces about what you should do, what professional practices you should follow. But I wanted to see it with my own eyes, recognize what you're expected of, what they're looking for, how you should act, and all that fun stuff. I think it's important for students to get real-world experience prior to graduation, just so they know what to expect when they're looking for a full-time opportunity, and they know how to prepare for stuff like that.
Cool. And so you've been here for about a year. What new technical skills have you picked up in the last year from working here?
So my SQL skills have definitely skyrocketed ever since I started working here. That's primarily what I work with, and just talking to my mentor Dan and my hiring manager Mike, both of them have taken the time to explain different SQL concepts to me, how it can be used in different ways. And also I've been exposed to some scripting C# code as well, which is something I've never seen prior to this, so that was also pretty cool to learn.
Awesome. So you learned some SQL, a little bit of C# there. How did you go about actually learning this new skill? What were the kind of tools made available to you to actually acquire these new skills?
So I'd say it was a good mix between just talking to other developers and actually a little bit of self-teaching as well. I've had a lot of conversations with Dan and Mike, just sitting down talking about different concepts, different ways of approaching certain problems, as well as you can look online for references for different languages and stuff. And also, if you take 10 minutes and look for a tutorial online, you can learn a lot of things about different languages, SQL, C#, SSIS, SSRS, all kinds of things. And you can figure out different ways to set up the same product and what may be more efficient, more optimal, et cetera.
So I think mentoring is really important. And you mentioned that you worked with a mentor. Can you describe in a little more detail what that was like?
Well, ever since I started here, like I said, mentoring has been a huge part in all the learning that I've done. And a huge chunk of that credit, like I said, goes to my fellow developer, Dan. He's always been available when I need him. I can just poke my head around the wall in between us and ask him a quick question, and he'll always be happy to help me out. And like I said, he also does a great job of going into the why. He will explain top to bottom why this is the answer, why it works, why other solutions don't work. Which not only reinforces what I'm trying to learn, but also kind of gives you a roundabout as to why you don't do it this way or don't do it that way, and why this is the most efficient way, best for optimization and stuff like that. And I feel as though Dan also exceeds in, he's not always watching over my shoulder, and I think that's a crucial part for mentoring, because if you always have somebody watching over your shoulder, you feel as though you kind of have to do things their way. But Dan does a great job in kind of just letting me do it my way. And if I have questions, he's there for me. But I feel as though that also develops your skill of thinking independently, because as a software developer, you need to be able to create solutions on your own. You need to be able to adapt to projects as they're changing. And mentors kind of letting go of the reins really reinforce your ability to do so.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like how you phrase that. It's a mix of try it on your own, figure it out, struggle with it just a little, just enough. And then he's still there for questions and code review to check what you did to make sure that the quality's up to snuff. I think one of the other interesting things about Dan particularly is this mentor isn't someone with just a year or two of experience. I mean, Dan has a decade plus coding experience to do what you talked about, where they can give you not only kind of the right answer, but why some other answers might not be the best approach, even though they technically work.
Mm-hmm. And even the advice he gives me, I've taken it back into the classroom sometimes on some projects I've worked on in SQL-based classes. Some of his thought processes have been different than what the professor provides, and they've actually given me a better edge on what classwork I've been provided with.
So one of the things we hear from other interns, especially developers, is that they don't get to be as hands-on as they'd like. Can you describe some of the projects you've worked on and what it's been like?
So one of the largest projects I've worked on in my time here has been a comprehensive OSJ dashboard for our compliance department. I've worked hand in hand with them to create a series of reports that monitor different actions by our financial advisors that are often audited by our regulatory institutions such as FINRA and the SEC. I was given the chance to actually lead that project, so it was really cool to be able to build something of my own design just from a request from one department in the business unit.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about that. You really got to kind of fully own this project, right? It wasn't just someone handing you a spec to code, right? You actually met with the business units. You got to hear from them firsthand. You got to build a solution. You got Dan to check it, return it back to the business unit. They would give you feedback, make any adjustments.
It's a great process. I mean, not only was I able to add my own little creative aspect to it, but also, I had Dan, Mike, all kinds of other reviewers actually making sure it worked, which is, a big piece of it. Because I am an intern. I am baseline knowledge, or I have baseline knowledge, and it's good to have that reviewed. But also, there was no true structure to it, rather than this is what we're looking for, make it happen, which was really cool, and it allowed me to just kind of build it as I felt necessary.
Yeah, I think one of the unique things about Valmark as well as we're a little bit smaller. So in a larger organization, you only interact with a business analyst who hands off requirements to you. You actually participated in the meetings with the business units. Can you describe kind of your relationship with the business units now, or kind of what that was like actually getting to interact with, people outside of IT?
Yeah, so for that project specifically, I had a recurring compliance meeting once a week with compliance leadership, myself, and my mentor, Dan. It provided a direct line of communication between me and the requesters, and it made it a little bit easier to actually build it to what they were looking for, because we could bounce back with feedback, new versions, updates, and just get immediate, I like this, this, and this, can you change this, And it allowed me to kind of customize it to exactly what they were looking for, but not necessarily building it in a way that they defined.
Yeah. All right. So you've been here for a while now. So what's been your favorite project so far?
I'm going to have to circle back to that OSJ dashboard. I really liked it because what we were just talking about, I liked being able to customize it to how I wanted to do it. Not only because, I wanted to see what I was capable of, but also because it was easier to understand. If you're writing something in your own methodology, it makes it a little easier to build onto it and to help it grow as time goes on, because things are going to have to change. Code is always changing. You're going to have to make updates for different, changes and however our data comes in. And I feel as though building it in a way that's comfortable for you makes that process a lot easier.
Cool. All right. So switching gears for a moment, we're going to stop talking about the work stuff, and we actually like to have fun at Valmark. You've had the opportunity to do a number of kind of fun things outside of the office. Can you describe maybe one of your favorite activities you've gotten to do outside of the office?
Well, number one on that list is by far the annual Intern golf outing. It actually inspired me to take up the sport myself, which huge financial hit for the clubs. But it's a good time. They take a day. They take us out to the Fairlawn Country Club they bring all the interns. They bring some full-time team leads as team captains. And it's a great opportunity for interns to just mingle, get to know one another.
I think Larry, the CEO, Caleb, the president.
All kinds of representatives from the business unit come out. They talk. You're able to talk to anybody. You can get your name out there, get to know different people, and discuss what do you do at work? I do this. And it's good to just get your name out there and, not just be a nobody behind a computer screen.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Plenty of that. What about any IT specific fun you've had?
Well, that was next on my list.
Okay.
The IT department blocks off time about once a month, give or take, to showcase different projects, anything that's been worked on that's new tools that you discover, just to educate your peers and stuff like that.
What was kind of favorite thing you've seen somebody else work on at Valmark by going through that?
So one of our developers on my team, Dan Eckberg, he actually found this tool in CRM called the XRM Toolbox, I believe.
XRM Toolkit.
Toolkit.
Close enough.
It gives you the ability to customize different ribbons and forms in CRM, so you can showcase different capabilities while also reorganizing the old ones. And I thought it was cool because I just used it on a project I was working on to replace our dialogues. And I had a request to move around some of the buttons on one of the ribbons, and that XRM toolkit made it extremely simple. I was able to do it in a couple clicks.
Yeah, so we have two Dans here. So Dan Baum is your mentor. This is another Dan Eckberg.
Yeah.
So opportunity to learn not only from your mentor, but from some others on the team and to broaden out your skills.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, it was really cool to see that somebody else had discovered that functionality and actually figured it out start to finish and was able to explain it to everybody else. I thought it was really, really cool.
That is cool. Okay, last question. What advice would you give to another intern looking for a internship in software development?
So if I had to give somebody advice, I would say two things. First of which being, you want to look for a place that's going to help you grow, because internships are designed to supplement your academics. They're not only just a job, if you will. So while you're at your internship, you should be able to improve your skill set. You should be able to develop skills that are marketable in the real world. And I feel as though if a company is willing to reinvest in you, it's going to make your time worthwhile. And number two would be try to find an opportunity that doesn't make you dread coming into work. I feel as though that's half the battle. If you don't want to come to work, you're not going to do a good job. You're not going to strive to make something that's really, really good. And I feel as though the work I've been provided with here, I've seen its applications. I've seen it being used. And it provides a little bit of value to what I'm doing and gives me a sense of accomplishment when I actually finish something and I see it used by the business unit.
Yeah, I think that's key. I know I get a lot of satisfaction out of that, right? So it's not just you getting a spec, you writing code, and then not really knowing the impact of your work, but you've met with the business units. You can, when you deliver them kind of on end of the sprint and they see your work and you get to see the look on their face and you know the impact to them personally, how much it impacts them. I find it rewarding.
So do I. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, Austin, thank you for joining us today and giving us a little bit of insight into what it's like to be an intern developer at the Valmark Financial Group. Stay safe.